Glamour Prestige presents Virtual Learning Party every Tuesday and Thursday starting March 24th, 2020 for students in grades 3 through 6, reading and English only.
Your hosts are Dr. Jacqueline Walker and Velvet Smith, who are ready to turn up for learning. Hey!
So the SOL, starting with third grade, is the student will read and demonstrate comprehension of fictional text, literary nonfiction, and poetry. And really, this is really taking a deep dive into looking at the narrative elements and starting with summarizing plot events, identifying the conflict and resolution, which you've already done on last week, identifying the theme, and those same skills go directly into fourth grade.
Okay, in fifth grade, you have some of the similar skills, which are summarizing plot events using details from the text. You discuss the impact of setting on plot development. You identify theme and explain the conflict and resolution, which of course we did last week. For sixth grade, it's identify the elements of narrative structure, including setting, character, plot, conflict, and theme.
So your ICANN for this today is summarize plot events using details from text with 100% accuracy with the help of mentor text, videos, and graphic organizers. Hi guys, it is so good to see you again today. This is a new week and you have 2 lessons coming up. But on today is Tuesday, April the 7th, we are going to talk about the plot of the story. You started out with story elements last week with conflict and resolution, but now we're going into plot. And Ms. Smith is going to take it from here and tell you a deeper dive into plot.
So plot is the basis of every fiction story. You don't have a story if you don't have plot because it's the events that are in a story. So we want you to sit back and listen to the vocabulary video that's coming up to tell you a little more about plot.
A plot's not anything but a sequence of events. And every story has a plot, because a story without a plot is like a fish out of water. Or like pancakes without syrup. Or like a shoe without some laces. You wouldn't wear shoes without laces, would you? Would you? You got a story to tell, you better have a plot. If it doesn't, am I listening? No I'm not. First, introduce the conflict and characters, then the action rises. It may get scarier, the climax is when things go nuts. The action falls away, then we wrap it up. Yup, that's the conclusion. Make your plot hot and you're never losing. Let's take a second now to focus on plot. You want to learn to tell a cool story or not? The beginning of the story is the introduction. We get to meet the characters, find out something about the main conflict or main problem. We're dying to know how the characters will solve them. The conflict unravels in 3 phases. Rising action is the first stage. It's the middle of the story where you build suspense. Whatever the problem is, it gets intense until the turning point hits. That's called the climax. The character changes, accepts new facts, and may have to make a choice based on what happened. The tension decreases, that's the falling action with the conflict resolved. You can wrap up loose ends in the last section that we call the conclusion. You got a story to tell, you better have a plot. If it doesn't, am I listening? No I'm not. First, introduce the conflict and characters, then the action rises. It may get scarier, the climax is when things go nuts. The action falls away, then we wrap it up. Yup, that's the conclusion. Make your plot hot and you're never losing. Let's break down the plot of a story called The Date, with 2 characters who are not the same. In the introduction, Joe says he's not popular. That's an important fact about his character. The conflict, he wants to date a popular girl. Her name is Lisa and she's out of this world. She only dates jocks, but he still makes the offer when he asks Lisa out on a date to Red Lobster. She says yes, and the plot thickens. legs. The rising action adds a little tension, but then Joe is grossed out by the way she chooses the climax. That information is new. It's a turning point for Joe, and things change after. Their relationship ending is the falling action. So the resolution to this conflict or conclusion is Joe and Lisa didn't stick. You got a story to tell, you better have a plot. If it doesn't, am I listening? No, I'm not. First, introduce the conflict and characters, then the action rises. It may get scarier. The climax is when things go nuts. The action falls away, then we wrap it up. Yup. That's the conclusion. Make your plot hot and you're never losing.
Hey guys, I know you really enjoyed that vocabulary video about plot because it was so interesting. I really love the music, I love the words, and I love the beat. I especially like the part where it says you got a story to tell. Well, as we do each week, we like to take it a step further with understanding the skill by explaining it to you a little bit more in detail. So plot is the events that make up a story.
Well, what is the plot of a story? The plot is the order of events that happen in a story, including the problem and the solution. We can think about the plot like it's a roller coaster. So if you see the roller coaster graphic, it's beginning, then it goes up to the middle, and when you're coming down, it's the end. You can also use transition words such as first, next, then, and last to help you go through the plot of a story.
Okay, let's talk about plot. Now that you know all about plot, show what you know. Put the plot of Cinderella in the correct order. Number the pictures 1 through 5 to show what order the story happened. So if you have this sheet printed out, go ahead and bring it on out and go ahead and start to put the numbers in your boxes once we go over talking about plot. If you don't have the sheet printed out, go ahead and take out your notebook sheet of paper and just write the numbers down on your paper as you see it fits in order. But before we let you do this, we want to refresh your memory with the story of Cinderella.
Cinderella. Once upon a time in a village, there lived a beautiful girl named Cinderella with her wicked stepmother and 2 stepsisters. She worked hard all day. One day, they all went to a ball in the palace, leaving Cinderella behind. Cinderella was feeling sad. Suddenly, there was a burst of light, and their fairy godmother appeared.
With the flick of the magic, she turned Cinderella into a beautiful princess with glass slippers, and a horse carriage appeared at the door. The fairy godmother warned Cinderella to return before midnight. Cinderella arrived at the ball. The prince saw her and fell in love with her.
They danced together all night. As the clock struck 12, Cinderella rushed out to her carriage, leaving one of her slippers behind.
The prince went to every house in the town with the slipper until he found Cinderella. The prince and Cinderella lived happily ever after. Okay, let's go ahead and look at this.
Okay, so now it's your turn to put your numbers in order based on the pictures that represent part of the plot for Cinderella.
All right, we're about to show the answers. Are you ready? Let's go.
All right, so your answer should be 4, 2, 1, 5, and 3. 1 is Cinderella working hard. 2 is when her fairy godmother showed up. 3 was when the clock struck 12. 4, the prince was going around looking for her slipper. And 5, they live happily ever after.
All right, everything has been going so good. So let's see. Today, our book is called Tallulah, the Tooth Fairy CEO. Can you see the book? And it is by Dr. Tamara Pozzoli. So go ahead and make your predictions. Go ahead and get those thinking caps on what you think the book is going to be about.
All right, on the back of the book, it says Tallulah isn't just the Tooth Fairy, she is the CEO of Tooth Fairies. So if you know anything about a CEO runs the business. So she has Tooth Fairies under her. It's a big deal going all around and getting those teeth from kids when they lose them.
All right, let's get the story.
Tallulah, the Tooth Fairy CEO. Written by Dr. Tamara Pozzoli illustrated by Federico Fabiani. Tallulah the Tooth Fairy had been in the tooth business for as long as she or anyone she knew could remember. The thing is, people have always liked to romanticize the idea of what Tallulah's job actually is and what she actually does. But make no mistake, Pearly Whites was more than just Tallulah's business. It was her career, and she took dentition seriously. What began as just a genuine curiosity for all things dental had grown and evolved into a full-blown, thriving corporation, founded, run, and managed by Tallulah, Teeth Titans Incorporated. So serious was Tallulah about her commitment to ivories that she also founded the National Association for the Appreciation and Care of Primary Teeth, or the NAACP-T. Like any notable mogul, Tallulah found she was most productive when she struck a healthy balance between her passion, purpose, and what pays. Thus, she adhered to a strict schedule that kept her both busy and fulfilled. On Monday and Wednesday mornings, it was coffee or tea with no sugar. It'll rot your teeth. A quick workout session, and a chat with her therapist. So, when did the obsession with teeth begin? I like to think of it as more of a calling. Tuesday and Thursday mornings were dedicated to yoga, Pilates, and running errands. Friday AM was reserved for visiting museums. She found exhibitions on teeth to be particularly fascinating. Each afternoon, Tallulah dedicated to training other up-and-coming tooth fairies. What? You're not surprised, are you? Well, of course there's more than one tooth fairy. There are way too many lost teeth in the world to attend to for one person to manage. Tallulah was the tooth fairy, not Santa Claus, though she had lunched with Santa's lovely wife Charlene once. Excuse me, Sam, could I have another Irish coffee, please? The road to being a mogul hadn't been easy, Tallulah liked to say, but it had been worth it. I just became swamped with all the work, so I had to hire additional help. Well, sure, I'm in it for the teeth. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't. But the greatest satisfaction is knowing that I'm providing a fantastic service to children around the world. Each and every fairy is trained by me. Yes, I oversee all the hiring. The term fairy is just my clever marketing ploy to soften and make palpable what we really are. An unstoppable team of strategized earners at the top of our game and armed to the teeth with teeth. Each tooth fairy learns everything they need to know in my 3-week training session. Enrollment is available for qualified candidates at the low price of $795. The potential tooth fairies signed up in droves. Questions you may get but are not obligated to answer. How does the tooth fairy get in the house? What do we do with the teeth? How are we notified when a tooth is lost? The answer to these questions and more are in the top secret Teeth Titans Incorporated employee manual. Each evening, after an early dinner and a bit of relaxing, Tallulah began her rounds as head tooth fairy. Sure, she could afford to be a lazy lieabout, but nothing gave Tallulah quite the same thrill as sliding a shiny tooth out from under a child's pillow and inserting something gleaming and jingly or crisp and easily folded in exchange. Until one evening when something unusual occurred. Tallulah had gone about her routine as usual and was prepared to make her last stop at a 6-year-old's home by the name of Ballard Burchell. As she snuck her hand underneath the boy's pillow, her brow furrowed and a perplexed look overcame her face. What she pulled out was not at all a treasure of a tooth, but a handwritten note by the boy himself.
Dear Tooth Fairy, I had a tooth, but I lost it. I hope you understand. Sincerely, Ballard.
Tallulah the Tooth Fairy studied the note for a moment. Well, first of all, this looks nothing like me, she began. Why do they always make me so tiny, she continued. And what am I supposed to do with this? Tallulah wondered aloud. She pulled out a copy of her employee manual for a quick reference, but nothing was written of any use on the subject. In all of her years as Chief Tooth Fairy, Tallulah had never encountered such a dilemma. She had a decision to make, and quick. Tallulah called an emergency meeting with her board of directors. These 8 individuals were the best of the best in her company. She could rely on them for sound advice and direction on how to address the situation and move forward. Tallulah began the meeting by stating, "In all of my decades as a professional tooth fairy, I have never had this occur. I'm truly stumped and would like your thoughts on how I can best handle this." A lengthy discussion ensued. "Leave a note that says, 'Sorry, kid. The proof's in the tooth.'"
He has to learn responsibility.
"Well, no tooth is better than a rotten tooth. I think we should remit partial payments for rotten teeth, or no payment at all."
It was thoughtful for him to leave a note.
Oh, raise your hand if you've never lost something.
While we're on the subject of unusual circumstances, should we be giving extra for gold teeth?
Tallulah, I'd like to discuss the lack of diversity on this board.
"Maybe next week, Tom." And later that night, once Tallulah had listened to all opinions given and had reached a decision of her own, she returned to Ballard's bedside. The next morning, young Ballard Burchell woke up with a start and immediately shoved his hand under the place where his head rested only moments before. His heart sank when he found only a paper, but quickly soared once he realized the sheet wasn't the same as the one he'd placed there. "Dear Ballard, sometimes things get misplaced. Here's hoping you find your tooth. Next time, use this patented Teeth Titans Incorporated tooth compartment lanyard. It retails for $9.95 and is available on my website, but this one is on the house. See you soon, the Tooth Fairy. P.S. Now you know why I wear the teeth I collect. They're easier to keep up with that way." Ballard hopped out of bed and ran to his mom to show her both the letter and the photo from the Tooth Fairy. But by the time he reached her, only the letter and the lanyard remained. And inside the Teeth Titan's tooth compartment lanyard was the shiniest gold and silver coin you ever did see. Copyright 2016 by Dr. Tamara Pizzoli.
Did you enjoy Tallulah, the Tooth Fairy CEO? Who would have known collecting teeth was big business? Did you kind of remember what the problem and the solution was? Did you think about how those events happen in order, thinking about beginning, middle, and end? Did you enjoy what the Tooth Fairy decided to do for the little boy? It's just a wonderful and excellent book.
Okay, now we're going to review plot because we are about to do an activity with you, but we have to review it first and then you're going to do it on your own. So, plot. The plot of a story is made up of the problem, which we talked about last week, which is really the conflict, important events, that's everything that goes on in the story, and the resolution, which is really the solution. The plot is a lot like a roller coaster.
So now you're going to see your plot graphic organizer. So if you have this sheet, you need to take it out. If you don't have the sheet, you can write beginning, middle, and end on a plain sheet of notebook paper so that we can retell the plot of Tallulah, the Tooth Fairy CEO. So on your plot graphic organizer, in the beginning, remember, you have to talk about the characters and you also have to talk about what is the conflict or the problem in the story. In the middle, you talk about those things that have happened from the conflict. And at the end, you're going to talk about how the problem is solved, and you're going to give us the conclusion.
Okay, you can go ahead and pause us here because you're going to go ahead and do that on your own. And when you unpause us, then we're going to go over the answers with you, possible answers with you, because your answers will vary and some of your answers will be different, but they won't be wrong. They'll just be a little different than typically what we may have. The title is Tallulah the Tooth Fairy CEO. The author is Dr. Tamara Pozzoli.
All right, in the beginning, it says Tallulah the Tooth Fairy has been in business for a while before she started her own company to help collect teeth.
In the middle, one evening, something unusual occurred. She found a note underneath the boy's pillow instead of a tooth, and she didn't know what to do.
At the end, she held a meeting with her board of directors and made a decision on what to do for the boy. The boy was happy with Tallulah had did for him.
All right, do you have something similar to this? We really hope that you do, because if you don't, you can always go back, look at the story, reread the story, and then go back and change your answers. But this is a possible answer that you should have.
All right, so now you're going to look at your homework. So for your homework, you're going to compile your beginning, middle, and end to make a summary. Please make sure that you use details from the text. So what you put in your graphic organizer can easily be moved over to make a summary. Remember, it has to go in order, beginning, middle, and end. Once you complete your homework, don't forget to get your parents to submit it so that you can be entered into a drawing for all different types of prizes that we are offering.
Hey guys, we really hope you enjoyed today's lesson. It was all about the plot, and we hope that you do your homework because we're really ready to give out those prizes. But on Thursday, we're going to talk about
theme, which is another one of our story elements. And theme is all about the lesson that the character learns.
All right, guys, see you Thursday.
Yeah.